Hi, I'm Joe. This is All Funnies and Games, and today I'm going to be drawing something. So today, I felt like deviating, getting away from doing the challenges and the generators, and just pick something that I think would be cool to draw. And I'm going to draw a classic European dragon. I'm actually thinking, if this goes over pretty well, it might be fun to do this as a series and just kind of explore the different types of dragons that you can draw, which I think would be pretty neat. So I'm going to start with just like basic shapes. This one might be more of like a drawing class type of thing than some of my other stuff. But basically, I'm just trying to get what this thing looks like. So we're going to have kind of a deep chest, deep but narrow. And we want it to kind of hunch at the back a little bit to make room for wings to go on. And it's going to get a little bit bigger here towards the end as we look at adding on like a haunch. So that we'll have some legs kind of here, some legs kind of here, and then the tail kind of sweeping out and around. And this type of dragon is the one I went with for my channel logo. It's what the typical Westerner thinks of when they think dragon, is something like this. So we'll just kind of have a upright head, majestic posture. And actually, a lot of the time, I don't draw a dragon that kind of looks like this. I think there's something a little bit more sinister and a little bit more intense about one that's kind of got that crouched wolf posture to it. Very, very much like a predator vibe to the whole thing. Arched swan neck there, very serpentine. Zoom in towards the head here to get that right. Again, we want kind of a snake look to this thing. Now, with kind of that snake look, it's not going to stay much like a snake because kind of that lizardy, horned look to it is going to be good. So, one thing with trying to draw it in 3D like this is you're going to want to offset the front and back legs somewhat. As you can see there, I'm getting the front leg areas and the back leg areas sort of distinguished separately. And then you don't want the legs to completely mirror poses on each other. So you can see that this leg is a lot more straight. Actually, I just use the circle tool for this. This leg that I've got here is a lot more straight than this leg that I've got back here. What that's going to do is just make it look a little bit more active, a little bit more vibrant. And then you want to make sure that the back legs are a lot thicker than the forelegs. That just tends to be how a lot of creatures look in the real world, and it's going to make this thing feel a little bit more real. And then you can kind of joint it a little bit differently. That's too many joints. So I think I'm going to have the back legs start off going forward, then joint back. Yeah, that looks better. So we'll thicken those back legs a little bit more. And just, again, you don't want the legs to mirror each other, but you do want them to kind of have the same joints in the same places. So those joints will be bent to different angles, but they'll be the same joints, the same length down the leg, all of that. So with that done, kind of thicken up the back a little bit. I think it's looking a little bit narrow for my liking. And we'll make this tail a bit longer. There we go. That's looking properly dragony. And then we'll get the wings kind of in here. Okay, and you'll want it to be like bat wings, kind of. So this angle right here is where, kind of air quotes, the fingers are going to emanate from. Okay, so that looks pretty good so far. We'll zoom out just a hair. Oh man, there really isn't a setting between here and there. Okay, we'll probably be zooming in on the individual parts anyway. Let's make sure we put in an extra layer, shrink down our tool somewhat, and then we can start on the ink layer of this thing. We'll kind of give it some of these horns. And again, this is something that exists in a 3D space, so we're going to make sure that we're showing both horns, and actually we'll even try to show kind of the ridge that those horns are coming out of. So the skin kind of folds up around the base of the horn, which is something you'll see with real creatures. And again, all of this is just to make this look as much like a creature that could exist in our world as possible. So we're not going to do big eyes because we're looking at it from the side. And a predator will typically have eyes that are front-facing, whereas an herbivore, a prey animal, will typically have eyes that are side-facing. Forward-facing are better for hunting, and side-facing are better for seeing threats coming from multiple angles and avoiding those threats. Okay, so there's a good head on this thing, and we will kind of give it spikes coming down along the back. So we'll just do a complete line where the spike meets it, and then kind of a partial line to show sort of the ripple of the skin kind of around the base of these spikes it's got. That looks pretty good. Ugh, that line's messy. Better. Okay. Again, we'll want the skin just kind of bunched up around here. We'll give it just one kind of spike at the wingtip. Just kind of give it some creases in the wing leather there. You won't see quite all the same detail on the far side, just because a lot of it's going to be obscured by the actual bulk of the body. But you'll see some. Actually, on the outside of the wing, we won't make a complete line there. We'll do the same on this side where we have these kind of incomplete lines. Just kind of suggesting the shape of the fingers coming off. Whereas on the underside of the wing, we'll see those harder lines. There we go. See, and that's going to give it some depth too, is that you see these hard lines on the underside of the wing, but you don't see them on the top side of the wing. And we can kind of imitate human musculature a little bit here. Yeah, and you can see this far leg is bent at a sharper angle. And so that just gives the idea that this thing isn't standing in kind of a textbook pose. Might be the best way to put it. It makes it feel a little bit more like a creature that just was caught in the wild, standing like this. So we drew all those lines to really get the shape of this right, and they're not all going to come through in the final product, but the fact that we did that is going to give a quality improvement that will come through in that final product. Because now that leg looks like it makes sense, even though you're not seeing all the work we put into making it make sense. And, you know what, I'm going to shrink down those front feet. I think they came out too big. Yeah, that's a little bit better. That looks a little more natural. So let's remove our ink layer. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I think for coloring this guy, actually before we color, let's put a little more detail into some of these areas. Just do solid plates down the front of this guy. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. And then, yeah, I think if we do too much more than that, we're going to be at a real risk of over-designing it. So, let's start coloring. And there we have it. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's a fool's hope, but I hope maybe you learned something from all of my odd little ramblings. And, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.